Imagine walking into a room where people are speaking about you, some in truth, many in falsehood. Your instinct may be to defend yourself, to explain, to prove, to argue. Yet there is a peace that descends upon the heart when you realize you don't need to convince anyone, because the one who created you, the one who knows your every struggle, your every intention, and your every tear, is the one who will defend you. And when he defends you, you don't need an audience, you don't need a crowd to clap for you. You don't need people to understand you, because his defense is greater than the approval of the entire world. Throughout history, those closest to Allah were often misunderstood. They were mocked, belittled, accused, and insulted. Yet they remained steadfast because they knew that their honor and dignity lay not in the mouths of people, but in the hands of Allah. Think of the story of Maryam. She faced accusations from her community when she returned with her newborn child. A young, unmarried woman holding a baby. What did people say? They hurled the harshest of words at her. But what was her instruction from Allah? She was told to remain silent, to point to the child, no defense, no explanation, no debate. And Allah made the miracle of baby as a speak in her defense. This shows us that when Allah chooses to defend you, He will create a way that no human could have imagined. Silence is not weakness, it is trust in Allah's justice. For when He speaks for you, no voice can silence the truth. Many times in life, we will find ourselves in situations where people misunderstand us, misjudge us, or even speak falsely about us. The natural reaction is to rush to defend ourselves, to argue, to prove them wrong. Yet there is immense wisdom in remaining silent when your silence is for the sake of Allah. Because silence in such moments is not defeat, it is not weakness, it is actually a powerful statement of trust. It is saying that you believe Allah knows the truth, and His justice is far greater than any defense you could mount on your own. Think of it this way: when someone throws dust into the air to block the sunlight, the dust may hover for a while, but eventually it settles down and the sun shines just as brightly. Lies and accusations are like dust, they may temporarily cloud your image. But when Allah defends you, the truth shines again brighter than before, and no voice can suppress it. In the Quran, we learn from the stories of the prophets that silence was often their strength when faced with false accusations. One of the most striking examples is Maryam. When she returned to her people with baby Isa, they accused her of the worst of sins. Imagine the entire community pointing fingers, gossiping, and shaming her. What defense could she possibly give? Yet Allah instructed her not to speak, to remain silent and simply point to the baby. That silence was more powerful than any explanation. Because when Allah defends, He does so in a way that no human could ever imagine. The infant Isa spoke, defending his mother, declaring himself a servant of Allah. Could Maryam's words have carried more weight than a baby speaking by the will of Allah? This is the essence of trusting Allah's justice. Silence was not her weakness, it was her strength, because it allowed Allah to manifest His defense. We sometimes think that silence means we are helpless. In reality, silence, when coupled with patience and faith, is one of the strongest forms of reliance upon Allah. It is an act of surrender that says, I leave this matter to you, O Allah, because you know my heart, you know the truth, and you are the best disposer of affairs. And when that trust is placed in Him sincerely, the outcome is always in your favor, even if the world seems against you. Silence in such moments shields your heart from bitterness. It prevents you from lowering yourself into unnecessary arguments that only add fuel to the fire. It keeps your dignity intact, while those who engage in lies and slander eventually expose themselves. The Quran promises that falsehood is bound to vanish, no matter how loud it may be. Now, think of your own life. Have you ever been wronged by someone who spread false stories about you? Have you ever wanted to prove your innocence but felt trapped? Because the louder you tried to defend yourself, the more distorted the story became. This is where silence becomes your shield. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to convince people, you lift your matter to Allah. You cry to Him in your sujood, you pour out your pain and your du'as, and you say, O Allah, and that is enough for me. That surrender gives you peace because you no longer carry the burden of proving yourself to the world. You allow Allah to defend you in His perfect timing, in His perfect way. Silence in the face of falsehood also teaches humility. It reminds us that we are not in control of people's perceptions. We cannot control tongues, but we can control our own response. And the best response is often no response at all. This is not silence born of fear, but silence born of trust. You stand tall in your heart, knowing that your worth does not come from what people say, but from what Allah knows. That is why silence is strength, not weakness. Strength is the ability to walk away from arguments that have no benefit, to preserve your peace, to choose dignity over drama, and to let Allah handle what you cannot. When lies surround you, let your patience become your shield, because Allah Himself clears the path for those who rely on Him. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that those who are patient will see victory. Patience is not passive. It is not sitting back and doing nothing. Patience is active trust in Allah, choosing not to react with anger or haste, but to endure with dignity, knowing that your defender is watching. When falsehood tries to surround you like a storm, your patience becomes the shelter that keeps you standing firm. Without patience, the accusations, insults, and betrayals of people will crush your spirit. But with patience, those same hardships become a means of your elevation. Consider the story of Prophet Yusuf. He was wronged repeatedly, betrayed by his brothers, sold as a slave, falsely accused, imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. If anyone had reason to lose hope, it was him. But his patience became his shield. He endured with dignity, refusing to let bitterness consume him. And what happened in the end? Allah cleared his name in the most remarkable way. Years later, when the truth came out, it wasn't because Yusuf argued his case, but because Allah Himself revealed it. His patience led him from the darkness of the well to the seat of power in Egypt. This is the power of patience as a shield. Allah clears the path for those who place their reliance upon Him. Many of us want immediate justice. When someone lies about us, we want the truth exposed instantly. But sometimes Allah allows falsehood to run its course for a while, not because He is unaware, but because He is preparing a greater victory for you. Patience during that period is your proof of faith. It shows that you believe in Allah's timing, not your own. And when the truth does come out, it comes in such a way that it leaves no doubt. That is why patience is so essential. It's not just about waiting, it's about waiting with trust. Waiting with hope, waiting with dignity, waiting while continuing to do good, and waiting without losing your connection to Allah. When you face slander, when you are betrayed, when people twist your words, hold on to your patience. That patience becomes your armor. It protects you from reacting in ways that may harm you later. It protects your heart from hardening with anger. It protects your tongue from uttering words you may regret. And it keeps you focused on the bigger picture that Allah is watching, Allah is recording, and Allah's justice will prevail. When you truly believe that, you stop worrying about people's judgment. You stop losing sleep over what others think. You live with peace in your heart, knowing that the path will be cleared, because Allah has promised it to those who rely on Him. This is why the Quran often connects patience with victory. Indeed, I is with the patient. That presence of Allah with you in your hardship is far greater than any support from people. His presence means He is guiding you, protecting you, comforting you, and preparing something better for you. Patience in silence does not mean you are defeated, it means you are under divine protection. And when Allah is with you, no falsehood can harm you. When lies travel faster than truth, it can feel suffocating. Words can cut deeper than swords, and false accusations can break even the strongest of hearts. But the beauty of faith is that the truth never dies. No matter how much falsehood is spread, no matter how loudly people speak against you, the truth is like the sun. It may be hidden by the clouds for a while, but it will shine again with even greater brilliance. Falsehood is temporary, truth is eternal. You may not always see it immediately, but Allah promises that truth prevails in the end. And that promise is what gives you the strength to endure, even when the world seems to turn against you. When the Prophet Yusuf was falsely accused, he was thrown into prison. Imagine the weight of that lie on his shoulders. A man of purity, wrongly accused of dishonor and jailed for something he did not do. For years, people believed the lie, but Yusuf's patience kept him steadfast. He knew that the truth would not be hidden forever, and when Allah decided it was time, the truth emerged so clearly that not only was his honor restored, but he was elevated to one of the highest positions in the land. If the lie had not spread, his rise would not have been as powerful. His story teaches us that truth has its appointed time. It will not be rushed and it will not be silenced. It will emerge when Allah decrees, and when it does, it will shine in a way that leaves no doubt. Falsehood may be loud, but it is hollow. It has no foundation. People who build their reputation on lies are like those who build a castle on sand. It may look strong for a moment, but it collapses with the first wave. Truth, on the other hand, is like a mountain. It may not rise suddenly, but once it does, it stands unshaken through time. This is why you should never feel defeated when lies are spoken about you. Instead of trying to drown out the noise with your own voice, hold on to the truth within you. Because the one who knows the truth will make it known when the time is right. That trust allows you to walk with dignity even when surrounded by falsehood. Another lesson from Yusuf's story is that Allah sometimes allows the lie to spread so that when the truth is revealed, it brings a greater victory. If Yusuf's innocence had been proven immediately, he would have been freed, but he may not have risen to power. By delaying the truth, Allah allowed Yusuf's honor to be restored in a way that lifted him far above those who once accused him. In the same way, when people lie about you, perhaps Allah is preparing a greater outcome for you, one you cannot yet see. The wait may be painful, but the reward for patience is immeasurable. When you understand that truth always prevails, you begin to live differently. You stop feeling the need to chase every rumor, to correct every false story, to fight every slander. You stop losing your peace over what people say, because you know their words cannot change what Allah has written. You begin to realize that lies are a test, not a verdict. It tests your patience, your faith, and your trust in Allah's justice. And when you pass that test, the truth comes not only to clear your name, but to elevate you. When your heart carries the truth, you don't need to shout for validation, because your silence speaks louder than their lies. Silence in the face of slander is not defeat. It shows that you trust Allah to handle what you cannot. It shows that you value your peace more than petty arguments. It shows that you believe your worth is not defined by what people say, but by what Allah knows. When you respond to lies with silence, you are not ignoring them out of fear. You are rising above them out of strength. That silence is your dignity, your shield, and your trust in Allah. Think about Maryam when she was accused of wrongdoing. She had every reason to defend herself, to shout her innocence, but she remained silent as Allah commanded her. Her silence was not weakness, it was an act of worship. It allowed Allah to defend her in a way that no words could. The baby Isa spoke, clearing her name and silencing her accusers. Could her voice have carried the same weight as a baby miraculously speaking? Never. That is the power of trusting Allah's defense. Your silence, coupled with your sincerity, opens the door for divine intervention in ways you cannot imagine. Silence is not about doing nothing. It is about doing the right thing at the right time. It is about knowing that your energy is better spent in prayer than in arguments, in patience than in complaints, in good deeds than in gossip. When people lie about you, instead of wasting your nights worrying about their words, spend your nights crying to Allah. Instead of crafting responses to prove them wrong, craft du'as to seek Allah's help. Because the one who holds hearts can change their perception of you in a moment. The one who controls tongues can silence those who speak against you. And the one who is the ultimate judge will not allow lies to remain victorious forever. Silence also teaches you self-control. It prevents you from reacting out of anger and saying things you may regret. It shields you from lowering yourself to the level of those who slander. It protects your peace of mind. Many times, when you try to defend yourself in anger, you only give more fuel to the lies. People twist your words, take your responses out of context, and make the matter worse. But when you remain silent, you leave no room for them to twist anything. Your silence speaks volumes, it says, and that is Fala with my defense, far more powerful than any argument. This does not mean silence in every situation. It means silence when your defense will not benefit you, when your words will be twisted, when your energy is better spent elsewhere. There are times when speaking the truth is necessary, when standing up for justice is required. But when it comes to personal slander, when it comes to the lies people tell about you to drag you down, silence is often the greatest response. Because not every battle deserves your effort, and not every voice deserves your answer. Your silence tells the world that your dignity is not for sale, and your peace is not dependent on their approval. When you remain silent with truth in your heart, Allah elevates you in ways beyond imagination. The same tongues that once lied about you may one day praise you. The same people who once doubted you may one day seek your help. And the same lies that once hurt you may become the reason for your growth. That is the promise of Allah's justice. Truth always wins and falsehood always fades. Your responsibility is to carry the truth with patience, protect your heart with silence, and trust that Allah's plan is greater than any human scheme. When someone wrongs you, the natural instinct is to respond immediately. You want to defend yourself, prove your innocence, clear your name, or retaliate with the same force. But wisdom teaches you that not every action deserves a reaction, and not every insult requires a response. Sometimes remaining silent is far louder than any words you could speak. Silence in moments of injustice is not weakness, it is reliance on the one who never sleeps, the one who witnesses everything, and the one who has promised justice that no human being can escape. When you remain silent for the sake of Allah, You are not suppressing your emotions, you are channeling them into a higher purpose. You are reminding yourself that the judgment of people is temporary, but the judgment of Allah is eternal. There are moments in life when speaking would only add fuel to the fire. When you try to justify yourself in front of people whose hearts are already bent on misunderstanding you, your words will never convince them. They do not seek the truth. They seek entertainment, drama, or validation for their prejudice. In such situations, silence becomes a shield. It protects you from lowering yourself to their level, and from getting entangled in a cycle of endless debates, and from wasting your energy on battles that were never yours to fight. Silence says, I trust Allah's timing. I do not need to prove myself to you because the one who knows me better than I know myself is sufficient as my witness. The most powerful examples come from the lives of the prophets. Imagine the scene of Maryam carrying Isa in her arms. The people accused her of the worst kind of immorality. She could have screamed, cried, and tried to defend herself. But her defense would not have reached their hearts. Allah instructed her to remain silent. It was not Maryam's words that cleared her name. It was the miraculous words of a newborn child that silenced her accusers forever. Her silence was not cowardice, it was faith. And through that silence, Allah defended her in a way that no human defense could. This is the power of leaving your matter in the hands of Allah. Silence in the face of wrong is not about ignoring injustice altogether. It is about choosing your battles wisely. When silence will preserve your dignity and protect your peace, then silence is strength. But when speaking the truth is a duty, when silence would allow oppression to grow, then breaking that silence becomes an obligation. The wisdom lies in knowing the difference. If someone attacks your faith, your family, or the rights of the weak, remaining silent is not patience, it is negligence. But if someone attacks your character with baseless lies, your silence is a form of worship because you are entrusting your honor to the one who will restore it in ways you cannot imagine. The Prophet Yusuf's story also reminds us of this. He was accused falsely and imprisoned for a crime he never committed. He did not spend his days in prison arguing his case to every guard or inmate. Instead, he lived with dignity, used his time productively, and focused on worship. He placed his matter before Allah, and when Allah willed, the truth emerged with such clarity that not only was he freed, but he was elevated to a position of honor and authority. His silence was not a defeat, it was an investment in Allah's justice. And when that justice arrived, it was complete, undeniable, and far greater than anything Yusuf could have achieved by arguing his innocence day and night. When you remain silent, you also learn patience. It is not just about enduring hardship, it is about how you endure it. It is about holding your tongue when your heart is burning. It is about trusting the unseen plan when everything around you feels unfair. Patience through silence allows your heart to connect more deeply with Allah. Each time you resist the urge to argue, to respond with anger, or to defend yourself unnecessarily, you are training your soul to trust Allah more. This training strengthens your faith, making you resilient for future trials. There is another beauty in silence. It protects you from saying things you may regret. How often do people, in the heat of anger, utter words that cause lifelong damage? Words once spoken cannot be taken back. They may leave scars in relationships that never heal. Silence saves you from such regrets. Silence allows you the time to reflect, to process your emotions, and to choose your words carefully when the time to speak does come. Silence is not empty, it is full of wisdom when used correctly. Silence is also a response in itself. When someone lies about you and you remain silent, your silence says more than words ever could. It says you are above their lies. It says you do not need validation from those who thrive on negativity. It says your trust is not in people, but in Allah. And eventually people begin to notice, they may not admit it, but deep down they recognize the dignity of a person who does not get dragged into baseless arguments. Your silence becomes your statement, your strength, and your shield. At the same time, silence teaches humility. It reminds you that you do not control outcomes. You can explain yourself 1,000 times, but if Allah has not willed hearts to understand, they never will. On the other hand, you may say nothing, and Allah Himself will turn hearts in your favor. This realization frees you from the exhausting pursuit of people's approval. It liberates you from the need to be understood by everyone. It anchors your heart in the reality that being right with Allah is far more important than being right in the eyes of people. Consider also how silence nurtures inner peace. When you engage in every argument, you carry the weight of other people's negativity. It consumes your thoughts, drains your energy, and distracts you from what truly matters. But when you choose silence, you protect your mind from unnecessary burdens. You preserve your energy for prayer, for growth, for things that actually benefit you. Silence gives you space to breathe, to heal, and to reconnect with your purpose. It creates room for serenity in a world full of noise. There are times when your silence will make others restless. They expect a fight, a reaction, a defense, but when you give them none, they are unsettled. Your silence becomes a mirror in which they see their own pettiness reflected. It frustrates them because your silence denies them the satisfaction of dragging you down. In this way, silence becomes a powerful weapon. You defeat your enemies not by engaging with them, but by refusing to descend to their level. Even in our everyday lives, silence has value. In relationships, sometimes silence avoids unnecessary conflict. In arguments with loved ones, silence can be the pause that prevents words from turning into winds. In communities, silence from gossip can save reputations. In workplaces, silence from complaints can transform into productivity. Silence is not just about not speaking, it is about knowing when not to speak. It is a discipline that refines your character and beautifies your conduct. But silence is not passive. While your tongue is silent, your heart should be busy. Busy with dua, with remembrance of Allah, with trusting His justice. Silence outwardly must be paired with strength inwardly. That strength is built through prayer, reflection, and sincere connection with Allah. If your silence is empty, it will feel like suppression. But if your silence is filled with faith, it will feel like liberation. You will no longer see silence as doing nothing. You will see it as entrusting everything to the one who does everything perfectly. The reality is that silence is not always easy. It is often the hardest choice, especially when your heart is burning to be heard. But it is in those moments that silence carries the greatest reward. Each time you hold back a word for the sake of Allah, it is an act of worship. Each time you choose silence over retaliation, it is a victory over your ego. And each time you trust Allah with your defense instead of defending yourself unnecessarily, it is a step closer to the serenity of faith. When you begin to practice this, you will see its results. You will find people respecting you more, even those who once disrespected you. You will find your heart calmer, your nights more peaceful, your thoughts clearer. You will find Allah opening doors you never imagined, doors that no human defense could have opened. You will see that the silence you thought was heavy actually lifted you higher than words ever could.